Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. As you can see there, obviously being the last day of August, last day of Women's Month, you can see the topic, you and your money. So just to kick it off, give you some introduction. The COVID-19 pandemic has transformed many people's relationship with money, prompting them to think about the safety net. Also, we examine their spending habits, as well as obviously a lot of people started investing to fund long-term financial goals. However, the narrative around women and money remains deeply concerning. The gender pay gap has widened, and women typically tend to have smaller pensions, live longer, and spend more of their lives caring for others than men do. So all these all these things obviously negatively affect their finances, and the crisis around the cost of living is also just adding to their woes. With inflation eating away at cash savings, as well as obviously now we've seen lately volatility returning to the financial markets. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sean van den Berg. I'm an investment specialist here at PSG Wealth. Please join me today as we discuss how an improved relationship with money can help you, the woman, to achieve increased financial independence, obviously also to contribute to everyday expenses in your household, as well as also, I think it's also important to position yourself to meet your family's financial goals. Now, the reason also why I chose this little slide, as you can see this winding road, it might seem it's a long and winding road ahead when it comes to your money. And those of you that were on yesterday's webinar, the Think Big Series webinar with Sam Bessinger, she's an author and also a fintech entrepreneur. It was interesting, she mentioned there something about when we think about money, and we always think about products, something like a retirement annuity or a unit trust fund and things like that. Or we also think about, when we talk about money, we talk about wealth creation or financial freedom. But it's, and this is what this presentation is all about. What's more important is all about understanding financial basics. In other words, personal financial freedom. And by the way, that webinar that was held yesterday, that Think Big series, in the slides right at the end, will be linked to that webinar. You can actually go listen to it. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the agenda quickly, very briefly. Whoops, wrong button. Here we go. So just very briefly, you can see our quick little agenda. The main gist, as such, is around personal finance, you and your money. So how to better manage your finances this Women's Month. So first of all, every woman must ensure that she secures her future by taking control of her finances. And this is one of the big things that came out of yesterday's webinar with Sam. The main idea there was have a plan in place that controls your future. And I think that was the big message for me yesterday. So relying on someone else can leave you vulnerable if they're no longer able to or willing to help. At worst, it could mean someone making decisions intentionally or unintentionally or otherwise that are not in your interests and that will affect your financial future and that of your family. So while taking charge of your money and making your own financial decisions sounds liberating, taking that all-important first step can be difficult. So if you've relied on someone else, deciding to go it alone can be daunting, especially if they're reluctant to give up control. So in circumstances such as divorce or bereavement, while you're suddenly on your own and dealing with lots of issues, it may be tempting to find an alternative to taking the responsibility yourself. So yeah, and that's again what I'm saying just now. Have a plan to be in control. Okay, so whether it's your decision or forced on you by circumstances, there is some financial basics that every woman should know. So the first of these is to dismiss that stereotypical view of men as breadwinners on the one hand, and the other side is that women are spenders. So there's a lot of evidence born out of research to show that women are more cautious with money than men. So the financial rule is that sooner you do something about your financial affairs, the better. So here's what you need to know to get started. So, and this would have came out of that presentation also yesterday. I thought, wow, that's quite interesting. The 5 key components to financial literacy. So we talk about earning. She spoke about making money. So we're talking about earning or making money. So when we talk about the term earning, it usually refers to money that you're receiving from, number one, either from your work, actively, or your employment. In other words, what we call active income. Okay, you're being paid for your time. Alternatively, is from investment returns, and what we call passive income. So this will be from obviously portfolio returns, like a share portfolio, or dividend income, or rental income from property and things like that. So when we talk about income, it's used interchangeably, okay, with earnings, and in most cases can mean the same thing. So having an income comes with taxes, and this is what we're going to talk about also. And knowing what tax you must pay, as well as how to manage your annual tax returns, are crucial. So just be careful of that. So we talk about working for your money and getting your money to work for you. There's tax implications, and there's ways and means of lessening that tax burden. So personal income tax is the normal tax that you pay on your income. That's obviously from your salary or remuneration, from profits, from pensions, from royalties, amongst other things. So you're liable to pay income tax if you earn more than 92,496 Rand a year, okay? And if you're younger than 65 years old, okay? So the main thing here is that I want you to be aware is that obviously the different ways of earning and making money. So be careful of when we talk about work, and we talk about portfolio income. Okay, and then we talk about spending money, and this was also quite interesting. I like to use an analogy of a 50 Rand note. You might have a 50 Rand note in your purse. Now that 50 Rand is your slave. It can work for you, it can work for your children, it can work for your children's children. The minute you give that money away, a 50 Rand note, it's not yours in a way, it's gone. Okay, so when it comes to spending money, something we do every day, with small purchases like buying clothes to larger spending opportunities like traveling. Okay, with online shopping on the rise, it has become easier to have access to the things that we want. Okay, we saw that in the whole hard lockdown, how popular it became with Takealot and things like that. So in order to make informed spending decisions, it's important to know the difference between your wants and your needs. Okay, so just because, the main idea what I want to talk about here is that we talk about control your spending, especially when you're using your credit card. It's convenient, and the main thing is that you want to avoid those impulsive buys and things like this. It's something that you regret later. And we'll talk about it just now. We talk about borrowing money, but we talk about good debt and we talk about bad debt. So, making debt on your credit card is not good. Okay, so moving ahead, let's talk about saving and investing. And I prefer rather using the word growing your money. So yeah, we're talking about, we all heard that we should save for the future and for your future of your family. The earlier you start, the better, things like that. And I've touched on this in previous webinars. And again, at the end of this presentation, will be links to those previous webinars. So you can also just go review it. So I'm not going to touch too much on it. But the whole idea here is that there's various ways to save money, and you'll see in the next slide, we talk about having a budget, and I have touched on that also before. But also what's important when we talk about growing money, and this is something that people don't really understand, is that whole magic of compounding. How your money works for you. Money makes money babies. Okay, so it's about time. And that's a crucial thing on our highlight for you. It's time is a crucial element. The longer you have, the better. Okay, so so I have touched on this before in previous webinars. So let's talk about borrowing money. Okay, so obviously at some points in your life, borrowing money or taking out a loan is a necessity, but used correctly for the right reasons, it can be a lifesaver. Okay, I'm talking about lifesaver, and I have touched on this also in previous webinars, is having an emergency fund. And I have used the same thing before, A lot of people are living above their means. They're living a champagne lifestyle on a beer income. So you don't want to be borrowing money to fund your lifestyle. That's not the right thing to do. Okay. And then the last thing I want to highlight there is protecting your money. And a lot of people don't think about that. You know, it's all very well making money and spending money and saving and growing your money. But how do you protect your money? And I think what's important is you are your number one income generator. So you need to protect yourself. So, you know, having an income protection plan in place, but I think more importantly, I think having a life insurance policy in place. You know, something happens to you that your family's taken care of, at least your debt is paid off. If you have any debt, especially a home loan, that's important. But also, I think more importantly is to have a will in place. And I'm amazed how many people don't have wills in place, you know, especially when it comes to estate planning and things like that. So the idea of the will is that the assets or your possessions are distributed to your heirs. You know, you can also have, through the will, appoint guardians for your children. You know, appoint and obviously outline the powers of the executor. You can go so far as to specify your funeral arrangements. What do you want to do with your ashes if you want to be buried? I mean, if you want to have cremated, etc. But also, I think it's also nice to know that it gives you that peace of mind that it will expedite the legal process, and also more importantly, it will reduce the stress and the heartache for your family and your loved ones. Okay, so that's something very important to look at, is protecting your money. So just some ideas there, but those are the 5 key components, I believe, of financial literacy. And going on to the next slide, you'll see we talk about how better manage your finances. And one of the things, and again, we talk about the first 3 points there, is do a reality check. That's just having a clear view of your expenses and your income again. That goes back to that budget, and you'll see on the next slide again. And you can see on the second slide there is taking control. You know, when your expenses are matching or exceeding your income, you need to take control. You need to fix that problem. And again, that do not have that champagne lifestyle on a beer income. So you need to be either earning more, or which is easier said than done, or you need to cut back on your spending. And again, I said I'm reinforcing stuff I have spoken before in previous webinars. So I have discussed this before. So just as I say, please review those webinars if you haven't listened to them before. And then we talk about educating yourself. And I think this is what's also crucial when it comes to personal finance or financial literacy. There's plenty of easy to understand free information and tools online. So you know, what I suggest is write the stuff down that you don't know about, be it tax or whatever the case might be, budgeting. There's a lot of information, and again, I'm referring to the previous webinars. There's a lot of information there also. Okay, so don't let investing scare you off. You know, the whole idea here is to be consistent over time. Even if you start a small amount of money, and I'll talk about just again referring to that, the magic of compounding. Out of effects, especially a younger a person. Okay, and you know, I'm a firm believer in making mistakes. Yeah, you know, but make a mistake once, learn from it, and move on. So that's what it's all about. So it's good to make mistakes, and I've made a lot of financial mistakes, a lot of mistakes in the market, and that comes with experience, and experience gives you that wisdom. Okay, so let's talk about if you're still in your 20s, and I know that yesterday Sam also touched on it, you know, what are your financial goals you should have when you're in your 20s? Sorry, let me grab some water. So what are the financial goals you should be having in your 20s? How much money should you be saving in your 20s? And there's 2 things that are important here. Most financial planners recommend saving between 3 and 6 months worth of salary in an emergency fund. And again, as I have mentioned that before, as well as putting roughly about 10 to 15% of your monthly pay into a retirement fund. So those are the 2 most important things I believe that you must look at building up both as your target, as a good target in your 20s. Okay, so again, there's 5 steps, and again, I'm reinforcing previous things again, what I've spoken about before. budget. That gives you a starting point where you are now, and you can move forward. So yes, it is the first and most important financial step. So to help you create as I say, detailed budget, it will help you understand how much you're spending and where you can start saving a bit more. That's what the whole idea about is having a budget. I like to use the word of income and expenditure or cash flow statement. But yeah, so also with your budget, it allows, as I say, understand how much you can save, and that's where you'll find the money for the retirement plan, the retirement plan account as such. Okay, so you can start as low as 500 Rand. And I want to highlight something for you. I mentioned just now about the magical compounding. If you're 20 years old and you plan to retire at the age of 65, that's a 45-year time horizon. You start at 500 Rand a month, okay? And let's say you achieving 10% per year, which is quite possible. And you increase your annual contributions by at least the inflation rate, and I'm using 6%. Do you know that after 45 years, your contributions would have been 1.2 million? Okay, the growth would have given you nearly 7.4 million. You would be sitting very close on 8.5 million Rand, but just starting with 500 Rand a month at the age of 20 over 45 years. The point I'm trying to make, the earlier you start, the better. Okay, it's time in the market, time. Okay, and again, as I said, you know, the emergency fund is important, all those kind of things. A lot of people also debate, you know, should you prioritize paying down your debt or investing in the future? The idea is to do both together, you know, at the same time. So, you know, we're talking about excessive debt, you know, and I referred to you just now about bad debt, credit card debt, and things like that. That's where compounding can also work against you, because remember that you've been charged interest on that loan. So instead of making that kind of returns, you're paying that kind of interest to the banks. So just be aware it works against you also. So put your money to work, and this is obviously the vehicle for you to achieve your financial goals. So it's very important to understand, and again, I'm highlighting for you the tax efficient vehicles, and the next slide we'll be touching more on it. Be aware of those tax advantages you can use, okay? But also understand the different investment vehicles you can use. Also, what's important is choosing the underlying funds, especially when we talk about unit trust and that. What are you investing into? So it depends on your time horizon, depends on your risk appetite, what your investment goals and things like that. One of the things you might want to consider is our PSG multi-manager fund of funds. There are three of them, and they're becoming more and more popular. And I must say, I'm quite impressed with kind of how they've been outperforming the benchmarks. So yeah, bottom line, if you're in your 20s, it can be both exciting and daunting, but it's important just to take the first few financial steps to get you started. So putting your money to work, the idea here is that different vehicles for different financial goals. So the idea here with the financial goals, just understand there's a difference between saving and investing. Many people mistake saving and investing, well, they use it interchangeably. You know, they'll use both to achieve your financial goals, but there are differences in the two approaches. It's the same as like investing and trading. So we talk about investing or saving and investing. Just understand savings is things like your emergency fund. It's more investing to a cash or money market fund. It's all short-term goals. You know, maybe use a bank account for that. But also we talk about investments. Yeah, we're talking about more, getting your money to deliver higher returns. And usually this will be in the financial markets. You're looking for higher returns, and obviously higher returns comes with higher risk. So things like your obviously retirement and your children's education, those are the things you want to use it for. So as an introduction, there's 4 investment vehicles you can use here. So a voluntary investment plan, this is a basic unit trust account. This is great for that emergency fund. If you want, after you've built up at 6 months, you want to maybe extend it to 12 months. This is where you might want to have some additional funds in here. Still in money market or income funds. You can start a loss 500 Rand, lump sum of 20,000. Just understand you have access to it, so you've got a flexibility. Not so much like a bank account where you can withdraw the money straight away. He has at least 3 days before you can get your money out. Just understand also there are tax implications here. So any capital growth or dividends and things like that, obviously, it will apply here. Then we talk about the tax-free investment plan, the retirement annuity, and endowment. These are the tax-efficient vehicles that you might want to consider. So if your goal is 5 years plus, you might want to consider endowment. And this is more applicable for someone that has a marginal tax rate of greater than 30%, because within the endowment, it's taxed. But once you withdraw after 5 years, it's all tax-free. So that's a nice little vehicle there also. So yes, you do have access to the funds and things like that with a loan, or you can also take, you can withdraw against it. But the idea is also just to enforce disciplined savings. So especially if you want a more of a bigger ticket item in 5 years' time, be it a long overseas holiday or a big deposit on the property, that's what you want to maybe use it endowment for. Tax-free, I always believe in having a tax-free, especially to complement a retirement annuity before accessing your retirement annuity and your funds through the living annuity and things like that. You want to be able to access funds tax-free. So you know, at this point in time, you can put 36,000 Rand a year into a tax-free investment plan, or 3,000 Rand a month, monthly, with a 500,000 Rand lifetime limit. So you take, at this point in time, take a 36,000 divided into 500,000 lifetime limit, roughly about 13 years. So you want to max that out as much as you can. As I say, once after 13 years, especially when you get closer to retirement, you want to be loading it up at big time. And then obviously accessing those funds before touching your retirement annuity. Because remember, the retirement annuity, it's great for disciplined savings, but you can only access those funds at the age of 55. That's forcing you to plan for your retirement there. So yes, your contributions are tax deductible. That's a big advantage of the retirement annuity. It's tax deductible up to 350,000 Rand, or 27.5% of your income. But the idea there is obviously you can take out 1/3 lump sum. A lot of people take that out to pay off debt and things like that, to pay off the bond. But the other 2/3 must be reinvested, and that's for your pension. And that's what I'm saying. Before you access that, use the tax-free for that. Yeah. So let's say, for example, you have saved your contributions over 500,000 plus his growth on it. That's the kind of money you want to use to flatten out debt and things like that. Okay. So guys, I hope that has made some sense to you. Quick summary before we touch any questions you guys have. As I say, you can click on the little link here. It will take you to the YouTube video of Sam's presentation yesterday. So there was quite interesting nuggets in there. One of the things that also came out from it was interesting right in the beginning when she introduced the whole topic. She says money is not complicated, it is hard. And I thought, oh, that's quite interesting. She says, you know, the whole idea is about managing feelings about money. And the whole idea there also is to feel secure. And this is what the point I want to make here. Have a plan that puts you in control. And that, I think, was the main gist from her presentation yesterday. Have a plan that puts you in place. And hopefully through this presentation today, you've got a bit more of a plan. And I just wanted to, again, I think what's important is that understand that relationship with money. It's not just investing or saving money. It's about earning and making money. What do you do about spending money, borrowing money, and protecting your money? Okay. So I hope that makes sense. So in conclusion, guys, oh, sorry. Yeah, there's some of those links I put through the last 3 months regarding some of the webinars. This was a lot to do with budgeting and different ways of saving. And this is also about budgeting. So you can go click on this link to take you through to the YouTube videos, and you can reinforce it for yourself. Okay, so yeah, some links to these investment products that unit trust, especially for savings vehicles, your tax-free retirement annuity. Okay, so this presentation is being recorded, and hopefully you'll be able to get it either tomorrow or Friday latest. Okay, cool. Let me see what kind of questions you guys have here. Let me just maximize this out here. There's a question from Michelle. Michelle wants to know, what about having a share portfolio, direct share portfolio? Yeah, Michelle, it's I thought it might come up as a question. So there's a few things. Number one, obviously the initial capital requirements is important. Although we don't have a minimum investment for a share portfolio, you must take into consideration the trading costs. So our minimum trading costs, it works on a sliding scale, 0.9%, but the minimum is 157 Rand per trade plus VAT. So you must understand that your share, if you had to invest 1,000 Rand and your cost is 157 Rand, your share must move up over 15% just to break even on costs. Okay, so yeah, ideally maybe 20,000 Rand, then your cost is around about 1%. And with 20,000 Rand, obviously you've got all your eggs in one basket, so you won't have much diversification. So with 20,000 Rand, I suggest the best way to do then is to invest into a exchange traded fund, like a SATX 40 or one of the core shares, offshore stuff, or the, but through one share you have access to a basket of stocks. So that's with 20,000. That's a minimum I suggest to be more cost effective. Ideally, the more funds you have, the better, gives you more diversification, more flexibility. So for example, with 100,000 Rand, you can buy 5 different companies spread across 3 to 5 different sectors. And then you can obviously build up from there. So yes, so first of all, is that initial capital requirement would be important. And then also, secondly, is your time. How much time do you have to monitor your portfolio? And that also the question: are you an investor or trader? So, as an investor, obviously, you won't need so much time to be watching the market. Maybe watching it once a week, tweaking your portfolio on a monthly basis. But as a trader, it's going to take you much more time. And that also leads on to the third point, your level of knowledge and experience. So if you do have knowledge and experience how to manage shares and things like that, then all the way, then go for it. Most people, I believe, do not have the time or the knowledge to do it, and that's why I'm suggesting either unit trust, like a voluntary investment plan, and then using the other tax-efficient vehicles. So Michelle, I hope that answers your question. Here's a question here from Sarah. What about offshore? Offshore, again, Sarah, again, our minimum investment requirement is 100,000 Rand. It's not for everybody. Again, if you've got no knowledge and experience, I suggest maybe looking into ETFs. But remember, the whole idea about having an offshore portfolio is diversification, geographical diversification, it's not only having exposure to the JSE or the South African market, I want to have exposure to international markets. And on our platform, we have over 135 different exchanges. But also having access to sectors and shares not available in the JSE or available in South Africa. Okay, so I hope that also answers your question. Here's a question from Melinda. Please explain the difference between the RA and living annuity if over 55 years and no pension. Great. So Melinda, obviously the savings vehicle will be a retirement annuity. So you're saving up until the age of 65 for your retirement. At the age of 55 onwards, you can actually retire from that retirement annuity, hopefully built up enough capital now to be able to live off. So the idea is that, let's say, for example, you've built it, I'm using very simple basics criteria. You've got R1 million. You're allowed to take a third of that, 300,000 as a lump sum, and that's tax-free. But the other 2/3, the other 600,000, has to be reinvested into a living annuity. So a living annuity is once you retire from a retirement annuity, you basically forced into a living annuity. And the idea of the living annuity is it's going to give you that monthly income. So you are forced by law, you have to accept a minimum of 2.5% or maximum of 17.5%, and that's between 2.5% and 17.5% of that 600,000 you can take as either a monthly income or a quarterly income or biannual income or yearly income. And yeah, so that's going to be your pension. So depends how much you need. You also understand if you're taking 17.5% and you're only growing your funds by 5%, you're going to run out of funds very quickly. So I hope that answers your question, Melinda. Okay, so if you don't have a pension, if you don't have a provident fund or anything like that in place, the only, remember that's mainly, you can only have a pension or a provident fund through a company, through your employer. If you don't have anything like that, you have to have a retirement annuity. So you can't just go straight into a living annuity. You retire from a retirement annuity into a living annuity. So you need to build up that funds first within a retirement annuity. So that answers your question, Melinda. Cool. Okay. Any other questions? Melinda, you're welcome to drop me email if you want more questions. Let me just get to that slide quickly. Oops. You can contact me on wealth@phg.co.za. You can also contact me on that OneStream phone number 0860 if you want more questions about retirement annuities and what you can do at the age of 55. Okay, but guys, from my side, thank you very much for being on this webinar. Until next month, bye for now.